Hello, hello. Welcome to a Dreamer's Experience. Conquer the chaos. My name is Sean Laurie, and as an entrepreneur and a father of four, I want to give you guys different insights or tools each week from either myself, my wife, or others that will not only help you as an individual, but also as a parent conquer the chaos.
And hey guys, my name is Tiffany Lowry and I co host alongside my husband. I do wear many hats, and the two that I'm the most proud of is being a mother and a wife. We've had many chaotic moments as a family, but have somehow always managed to conquer the chaos. And that's why I'm excited to be here with you guys to share part of our journey.
Yes, so guys, like always, make sure you subscribe, like, appreciate you guys tuning in. Also, for the fathers out there that want to be part of the No Perfect Father, just go to conquerthechaos.net. Yeah, and it pretty much self-explanatory. Or if you need some more personal one-on-one, just honestly, when it comes to parenting, it's difficult at times, and sometimes we don't know what to do when it comes to our goals or comes to the structure we want for our family. So you can get on there, or you can just email me at dreamersambition@gmail.com as well. Um, Now that we got that out the way, like to do icebreakers. So I wanted to ask you, what takes, I guess, more patience? Is it noisy little kids, like, running around being crazy, hectic, or a moody teenager? Which one takes more patience?
Mm, more patience.
Yes,
Oh,
because for different
that
reasons,
one's,
obviously.
yeah. Um, well, considering we have both,
Hmm.
uh, teenager, I think.
That takes more patience.
I think so.
Okay. I'm trying to think for me. More patience. I feel like it's very difficult, but I guess I guess I would say the little ones, just because, like, with your teenager, they're like, well, at that moment they might just despise you, right? But they'll kind of get over it, or they'll maybe they'll just not say anything, even though they're upset. Where noisy little kids, you'll tell them one thing, right? Like, don't do this, and they still do it. Especially like us, where we have multiple young little ones, so they're constantly fighting, constantly going at each other, trying to irritate each other, trying to tell, oh, this one's the one that was yelling, not me, even though they caused it. So, I don't know. They both test your patience for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for me, the moody teenager, I mean, obviously both are difficult, but
Yeah,
I think the moody teenager because, right, like they're moody all the
yeah,
time. So, like, let's say you ask them to take out the trash or to get up and get ready to do something,
yeah.
and
True, true.
they have an attitude or whatever, or they can be, going through different things. They don't want to talk to you about it. You try to pull it out of them, different things like that. So
Yeah,
pushback,
true.
all that stuff. So
No, that's a.
th-
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say, but yeah, they're both very challenging.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a good point. Like, trying to get that out of them, like figuring out what's really going on, because in their minds, right, as parents, we have no clue, we can't relate, we never been through it, etc.
Yeah.
Um, but really being able to hear their opinion or their thoughts on things, and
Yeah.
and that brings me to what I want to talk about today is, as parents, you know, being really open when it comes to hearing our kids
Hmm.
and their opinions. I think what the other day, you saw some clip or whatever from, I don't know, Love and Hip Hop or whatever it was.
Hmm.
And the mom was just talking to the daughter, like, um, I guess the relationship, they weren't together. The mom and dad weren't together or something.
Yeah, it was Waka or whatever.
Waka or whatever, and this girl. If y'all know who Waka is, he's some rapper guy. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Waka, and I think her name is Tammy. I don't really follow them, but they were married and I guess separated now.
Yeah, I don't know the whole the whole story with it, but basically, long story short, um, she asked her daughter what she thought of them maybe working it out, the mom and dad. And so she didn't really have a real deep thought on this. She was just like, hey, whatever you guys are gonna do, you guys are gonna do. And it was more so because that's something that she's used to them doing, going back and forth. And the mom kind of downplayed it. And so I say all that because, I think a lot of times, and we as parents, it's easy. I'm not just saying for anyone in particular, but we as parents do this, right? Where we ask for opinions, and then when we don't get the answer we like, we might get upset or we downplay it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so easy where, you know, shoot, even our parents, right? We might tell them something, they'll ask us, hey, yeah, well, what's going on? Like, I hate that we're, oh no, you can talk to me about anything, right? Oh no, don't, I'm an open book. Oh, don't you worry. But then the one time it's something that you didn't agree with, or it's something where you might even feel like you're getting attacked, then all of a sudden you're pushing back with it instead of being like, okay, where's this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what I was thinking on that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what, I guess, is that something, at least for you, is that something where, you know you've seen, or something that you might even like struggle with at times?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've experienced that with my mom.
Mm,
Um, I mean, we have a way better relationship now, but when I would try to talk to her in the past, it would be like she, wouldn't want to hear what I have to say, or, she would get defensive, like a lot of us do, um, and wouldn't really listen, I guess, to what I was saying and like my point of view. But now, after having conversations with her, I think we have a better understanding and better communication process.
that's good. Yeah, and I think too, a lot of times, honestly, the reason why I feel like, we ask our kids, hey, I want to hear how you feel on this, or you could talk to me about anything, and then when the child says something, I think we feel like that's an attack on our parenting,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of really listening and understanding, so
Mm-hmm.
we can improve as parents. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm very big on that, as you guys should know by now. Constantly just growing, because we want to grow in every area a lot of times, but we'll stay stagnant in parenting,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, if your child is expressing something to you, then we should be open to it. We should listen to it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's more like what you said, like we get, we think it's an attack on our parenting. And I think it's more so of an ego bruise to us because it's like, oh, well, what do you mean, blah, 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 or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Um, which is natural. I mean, we're human, but
Hmm.
I think that's where a lot of times, we get defensive.
Yeah.
And like you said, like you know, we start feeling attacked, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, like, even, like, for example, that show that we talked about, Love Hip Hop, whatever it was, but, um, the daughter, when the mom asked, "Oh, what do you think about them being together?" The daughter was kind of like whatever, or numb to it, because of the fact they, like I said, they go back and forth. But just think about too what that does to your child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, well, at the end of the day, like, this is what you want to do, and this is what I'm seeing. So I'm noticing this pattern, right? And so when
Mm-hmm.
I call out this pattern, you get defensive. Or now I'm saying, oh, okay, they're just being a teen. And don't get me wrong, yes, teenagers are just being a teen at times.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other times where we have to really listen,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. If it gets to a point where, I guess, if you're doing certain things, have certain habits, your child can become numb to it
Mm-hmm.
too, right?
Yeah.
And they might even know, like, what's the point of me even expressing this? Because at the end of the day, you're gonna do what you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially, um, I I heard this. I'm sure many other people, heard this as well. When you say something to your parents, I'm grown. Like, what? I'm grown. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Like, oh, okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, like, well, I just think, mom, dad, maybe you shouldn't drink so much, because I read that it's not so good. I'm grown. When you worked as many hours as I have, this and this and this. Like, oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I can't, like, I wanted to communicate that to you, and now is, you know, instead you're telling me that you're just grown and I shouldn't be worried about it,
Mhm.
or or I earned this. It's like, oh, okay, well, like you wouldn't understand when you get older, you'll understand. Oh, I used to hate that.
Yeah.
I used to hate that.
Instead of having like a conversation, like you said, with your child or whatever, or vice versa, like our parents having conversations with us,
Yeah.
like really diving into like, oh, okay, well, why do you feel that way? Oh, what made you, ask that, or what made you say that? Different things like that. Because I think on the clip that I watched, um, I think Tammy, after her daughter was saying like, oh, yeah, that's your guys' business. It kind of, it happens with you guys. This isn't the first time that that's happened. Blah blah blah. I think Tammy had went on to say like, oh, this is how Charlie is. She internalizes things, so
Mm,
she'll talk when she's ready to talk. And it's like, well, she just talked to you
yeah.
and gave you an answer. Like, what more did you want her to say?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we do that as parents, or parents do that type of thing, it's because it's not the answer
Yeah.
that we want. So it's like, oh, okay, well, you're just saying that now because, that's not, you haven't had time to think about it, or whatever the case is. It's like, no, this is what I'm saying now. This is what I'm feeling.
Hmm.
And this is the answer I'm giving you, instead of like, oh, okay, I'll talk to her tomorrow and maybe it'll be different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, and that's like downplaying, our kids' opinions and thoughts on
Mm-hmm.
certain things. Um, or like I said too a little while ago, just is one of those moments where like, oh, okay, like she'll have a different answer tomorrow because she doesn't understand. Like when she's in this situation, she'll get it, right? Why is it always one of those Why is it always that where it's like, oh well, what when you get older, you'll get it, or watch when this happens to you, then you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna do this too.
Yeah, or like I remember one time hearing like, "Oh, you're just being silly. Like
Yeah,
that's not like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about."
yeah,
And it's like, "No, like I'm voicing something to you, or, whatever, vice versa, like our kids are voicing something to us." And it's like, "No, don't downplay how we're feeling or
hmm,
telling you, or how, your kids are telling you.
hmm,
Like don't downplay that, because then that has a ripple effect."
yeah, yeah. Because now all of a sudden they're not trying to necessarily like have that type of conversation with you. They might not
Mhm.
even want to open up, especially
Mhm.
especially as teenagers, right? They're already quick to just shut you out because
Mhm.
again they think their friends or whoever
Mhm.
understands them better.
Mhm.
So when you do that, they're like, okay, well, at the end of the day, I know my parent thinks that they're right, or I know my parent thinks that their way is always correct.
Mhm.
Instead of really listening and validating, even if you don't do what they're saying, and as long as they're being respectful, just validating what they're saying. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But this is the reason why X, Y, and Z. Because I
Mhm.
feel like if we do that, that would help so much. Like instead of saying, well, when you get older, that's what you're gonna do. When
Mhm.
you get older, watch when that happens.
Mhm.
Instead of saying that, maybe, okay, well, when you get older, what would you do in this situation?
Mhm.
Oh, I would X, Y, and Z. Okay, cool. Or if they whatever they say is not a reality, right? You're like, oh man, that sounds good, but what happens when this situation turns into this, right?
Mhm.
Having them think differently, and they're like, oh, okay. Because and the reason why I say all that because when you start giving different scenarios like that, now they're thinking differently, so maybe they can prevent that
Mhm.
whatever you're dealing with or whatever stuff you're battling with, like having those type of conversations now, if they are in those circumstances, the
Mhm.
outcome can be different.
Mhm.
So that's what I think it would be huge if we do that.
Yeah, just having that communication. And of course, there's going to always be like, you guys aren't always going to agree on certain things,
Yeah.
but it's being able to have like that open dialogue, even with like, not just teenagers, but, your little kids, having those conversations with them, and listening to them and validating how they're feeling and stuff. Because even with teenagers, right? Like if they tell you something and you kind of brush it off, then they shut down. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing with little kids.
Mm-hmm.
If our 7-year-old was telling us how he feels, and we're like, oh, you're just being silly, like you'll feel differently tomorrow, then that causes them to shut down and not want to talk to us and open up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, a lot of times again, yes, our kids, especially when they're teenagers, right? They still have a lot to learn, of course, but there's times where they'll say something and you're like, oh shoot, okay, like that was actually spot on, right? That was pretty.
Mm-hmm.
We had to give our kids more credit. I remember growing up, my mom would say at times like, man, like you're like at times you're wiser than your age, right? And I remember
Mm-hmm.
growing up too, I had older friends. Well, they're still older than me, but those friends I have, they're like, man, like okay, like even though you're younger than this, like the knowledge you have, because I would think differently, right? I just had a different perspective on things, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think it is so important and huge for us to really just have those conversations with our kids,
Mm-hmm.
um, because that's going to help them in so many different aspects. If not, then they can make those same mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
especially because they might be like, oh, okay, well, you know what, mom, dad, it doesn't look like you're happy in this situation. You keep doing the same thing. And let's say they're telling you, hey, you keep doing the same thing, mom, dad, and maybe we should just maybe you should kind of just chill out for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? And instead, you're like, no, you don't know, you're talking about this and this and this. And so now, not only did you downplay their opinion, but now they're thinking maybe that's what they should do if
Mm-hmm.
they're in that situation now.
Yeah. And I think something else to kind of piggyback off that, um, even if we don't agree
Yeah.
with them, like at least, listen to them and say, oh, oh, yeah, like I didn't think about it that way. Or, oh, yeah, that was a good idea. Because now, instead of us downplaying what they're saying, it it makes them feel safe to
Mm,
voice their opinion, and it makes them feel validated too, like, oh, okay, yeah, mom or dad is okay, they're listening to me, so what I'm saying matters.
yeah. Yeah. And I'll say this and probably won't maybe go well for some, but something that definitely should be said. As long as your child, if you ask their opinion or they give their opinion respectfully,
Mm-hmm.
and they say something and you get upset or you almost get like in an attack mode towards them, it's probably because there's some truth to it and it bothers you,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Um, and instead of being like, dang, okay, my child see, because look at it like this, there's so many times um, that we see on TV, reality TV. Right? We'll watch it, we'll be like, oh, that's so dumb. Why would you do this? Oh no, you should be thinking about that, or you should do this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have all these different opinions that we feel like that person on the TV should be just knowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when it comes to our lives, especially as parents, right, we won't do those same things. Matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, we'll make some of those same decisions that we see on the TV that we're talking mess about,
Yeah.
right? And then our child, um, again, respectfully, I don't know, depending on the relationship with your child, maybe middle school, high school, or to grown, even when your kids are grown, because even then, I've seen that as well. I've experienced that as well, where even as a grown man, I'll have a certain opinion, and if it doesn't line in with my parents, it's clashing, right? Instead of
Mm-hmm.
really trying to understand and really listen to what's being said,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, um, I think a lot of times when internally, even though we might be in denial and things like that, but internally, when there's something said and we're almost in attack mode, or we don't want to listen, or
Defensive.
we get defensive, right? We want to block out whatever it is instead of truly listening at times, right? It's because maybe there's something internal like, okay, dang, yeah, let me look at that, right?
Yeah.
Because like I say, right, no perfect parent, right?
Yeah.
No perfect parent. There is no perfect parent. So yes, we try our best, but we can always be better,
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
every aspect.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's something, I just wanted to definitely hit on the head because I feel like at times, that happens. We get in attack mode, and again, I'm speaking for myself as well. I
Mhm.
can easily get in attack mode,
Mhm.
and then I have to kind of check myself.
Yeah, pull it back.
Yeah, pull it back. Like, okay, because there's been times, my kids would tell you there'd be times where I react a certain way, and then I think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, let me go back to them,
Mhm.
let them know, hey, no, you weren't wrong. This is what I was feeling.
Mhm.
Especially with, even though he's 7, especially with my 7-year old, um, we already try to have pretty like deep conversations with him at
Yeah.
times, and we're going to do that with our 2 younger ones too as they get a little bit older. But we talk to them like that because we already want them to have a certain understanding and
Mhm.
let them know, hey, yeah, mom messed up, dad messed up. Like this is what we're working on,
Mhm.
right? And having that communication because I feel like it's so key, so
Yeah.
key.
And like you said, having that communication and letting them know, like you said, like having conversations and stuff and asking them for different opinions to let them know, like, hey, your opinion matters, and like what you're saying matters, like you matter.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because the world will tell you that you don't very quickly,
mhm.
right? Or the world will tell you something completely different,
Mhm.
right? And that's because we allow that to happen because we wasn't willing to have those type of conversations. We wasn't willing to be like, okay, yeah, it's okay if I'm critiqued a little bit on this.
Mhm. And I think really quick, just kind of backtracking to I think what you said before, if we don't have those conversations with our kids, and if we don't, give them a chance to feel validated and whatnot, then, they're going to turn to, the world, basically,
Yeah,
their friends, maybe other adults that might be around. And, then that wisdom that you should be pouring into your child is going to come from an outside source. And then that's going to create a whole other dynamic.
social
So,
media,
yeah.
all that. Yeah, yeah, that's so true. But yeah, guys, we this is something that I really want us to just dive into, because I feel like it's very important, especially again, where as parents we do the best we can,
Mm-hmm.
and at times, especially as our kids get older, they're going to be a little bit more vocal, as long as it's respectful, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But really just hearing them, and then even if it's something you don't agree with, ask them why. Like dive into the conversation more, get a better understanding of what their thought process is, because so many times the saying that we hear a lot, right, is I know my child, right? Every parent, I know my child do. But then it's like, well, do you really know when they're in school, are they the same way at home? Probably
Mm-hmm.
not, right? Your innocent kid that you like, oh yeah, they would never cuss, they cussing like crazy when they at school. Oh yeah, they're not even worried about dating, but they over there talking to every girl or dude or whatever, right? So um really get to know our kids, because at the end of the day, they are growing, they are changing. Yes, they have our traits as their parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're their own individual. So really
Mm-hmm.
just understanding them, um, and growing with them. That's the
Mm-hmm.
key. You have to grow with them, because if not, that's where the conflict's going to happen, because you're staying
Yeah.
stagnant and they're growing. Especially now in this generation, right? With social media and everything else, like you know, these kids now are shoot, they're inventing things at like 14 years old, right? all
Yeah.
all these different, so they have like a business mind, they have like a entrepreneur, all these different type of mindsets that they already have that many of us don't,
Mm-hmm.
or they're already thinking like, well, this isn't right, how can we fix that? Or we
Mm-hmm.
just be like, oh, okay, we're just going to keep it like that.
Yeah.
So they're constantly progressing, but as people I feel like we should be progressing.
Yeah.
So, as long as we're doing that, just progressing and things like that, you know, we're gonna create the best foundation we can for our family.
Yeah.
So really quick too, guys, actually, for the fathers out there, in was it 2 weeks, the 24th, pretty sure the 24th, you can email me too, like I said, dreamersambition@gmail.com, if you want no more information, or follow on Facebook, or join the parent group, No Perfect Parent on Facebook. But I'm gonna be doing another dad's cave on the 24th of September. So you don't want to miss it. We're going to dive in some really, really, really deep stuff. I don't want to give too much out right now, but it's going to be some good stuff. But yeah, guys, like always, right? So before we go, I just remind you, parents, to keep being an inspiration and never downplay the impact that you're having for your loved ones so you can conquer the chaos. Have a good one,
See
guys.
ya.